Now the latest from ITV News in the Channel Islands with Jonathan Wills and Alex Spiceley.
Hi there and welcome to ITV News.
The headlines this evening as the Channel Islands prepares for an Easter influx. It's a rocky start for Alderneys tourist season with the air service to the island grounded.
As a business owner, the frustration for me is if I have problems in my business, I have to find a solution. And at the moment, there doesn't seem to be many solutions being put on the table.
More on that in a moment.
Also on this evening's programme, we investigate the physical and emotional impact police attacks have on our officers.
How new technology could help keep the island's fish populations healthy for the future.
While in sport, we've Guernsey's teenage goal-scoring sensation and Jersey's shot-stopping octogenarian. Good evening. First tonight, picture-perfect weather, excellent flying conditions, and after COVID, the Channel Islands hospitality sector finally getting a decent break ahead of the Easter weekend.
Unless that is, you are in Alderney, which is currently cut off from flights with both planes out of action. Hotels have lost bookings and there's no definite sign when normal service will be resumed. Well,
in a moment, we're going to be speaking to our reporters at Guernsey and Jersey airports. But first, Serena Sandy reports on Alderney's aviation angst.
Alderney's airport runway is empty, effectively closed as disruption continues. One of Aurigny's Dorniers is under maintenance, the other out of service due to technical problems. All services to Alderney are cancelled again today and tomorrow. The airline has apologised and has chartered boats and put on extra flights between Guernsey and Southampton.
What are you going to do to improve the reliance of this service in the future?
Well, this has never happened before. It's, and we've had aircraft in routine maintenance before, and this has never happened. The last time we had an aircraft on standby from the Isles of Scilly, that hasn't been available because actually, ironically, they have the same technical issues that we have. So we do normally put in contingency plans. This has not happened before. So hopefully, once both of our aircraft are back in service, this won't happen again.
But it's little comfort to businesses left out of pocket. The Ville Hotel has relied on trade from the bailiwick bubble for the past 18 months, and now its first UK guests have cancelled.
We had a strong Easter planned with our UK visitors coming back for the first time, and unfortunately with the cancellations over the last 2 days, we've lost 8 of our rooms with people travelling from the UK who were only going to be able to get here on Sunday, which is the end of the Easter holidays, unfortunately. But for the customers coming from Southampton, it's just a bit too far. And although there is an option to fly them to Guernsey and then transfer them by boat, some of the customers are just not used to small boats and want to arrive by aircraft as they've booked.
Steve Roberts from Alderney states doesn't believe it's sustainable to operate the Alderney route with just 2 aircrafts.
Our air service is as fragile as an Easter egg. I think that we're going to have to look at some other way of getting people here this summer, because this could impact on us all summer.
Alderney States says it's working with Aurigny to develop a more robust, sustainable and resilient air service, which involves major work on Alderney's runway and tired airport infrastructure. But business owners like Roger want a solution found soon to ensure this doesn't happen again. And it's not only time and trade he's lost this weekend, but confidence too. Serena Sandu, ITV News.
Well, let's cross to Serena, who's at Guernsey Airport now. So very disappointing for tourist businesses in Alderney, Serena. But how many visitors are we expecting in Guernsey?
Well, it's set to be a busy weekend here in Guernsey with around 13,000 people expected through Guernsey ports over this bank holiday weekend. Here at Guernsey Airport, it's around 8,000 people with 5,000 people through Guernsey Harbour. Now that makes up about 70% of pre-COVID levels, so the tourism industry is slowly returning to normal. The hospitality industry will get a much needed boost tomorrow tomorrow when the first cruise ship arrives here in Guernsey, and passengers there are set to have a very warm welcome indeed.
Serena, thank you.
Well, in Jersey, despite gearing up for a busy weekend, they're saying that visitor numbers are not back up to their pre-pandemic levels. Well, Annie Nolson is at the airport for us this evening. Hi there, Annie. So why do they think that is then?
Yes, Jonathan, so around 20,000 people are expected to come through Jersey Airport in the next few days. So that's between now and Monday. And that's slightly lower than pre-pandemic figures. So in 2019, it was around 23,000. But staff say they are happy with the numbers of people they're expected to see, although they would like to welcome more. And they say as the summer holidays roll in and the tourism season picks up, hopefully these figures too will rise. But the people coming in at the moment are causing their own challenges for staff. So around 6 or 7 flights will often depart around the same time, making it very busy at security. So in order to combat those queues, staff are asking people to be organised, to come in early, to be very organised as they come through security. And overall, just to make it a lot easier for both passengers and staff over the Easter weekend.
Every minute counts when you're going through security. You know, if you're waiting in the queue, just get yourself ready. And for us, it's resourcing. We're constantly reviewing our resourcing levels. We are still having to deal with the challenges of COVID absence, but thankfully the numbers in Jersey are starting to reduce, and that is starting to become more of a positive impact rather than what we were experiencing a few weeks back.
And there's been some more flight news today. British Airways has announced it will be resuming its London Gatwick to Jersey route. It'll be flying once a day starting from mid-June and going until the end of September. So overall, it'll be running alongside the Heathrow route. So more choices for passengers hoping to get off Ireland during the summer months.
Right, Annie, that would be great. Thank you very much indeed for that.
Next tonight, police officers put themselves in the way of danger to protect us and keep the streets safe. And the latest figures reveal just how often they are subject to physical abuse. There have been more than 60 attacks on police across the Channel Islands just in the last 18 months.
Well, Emma Volney has been speaking to one in Jersey who was punched so hard in the face that he ended up needing stitches. Now, I should give you a warning at this stage. Emma's report, it does contain loud bangs and it has flashing images, and it's right from the very start.
These police officers put themselves in harm's way to keep us safe. The shields and helmets necessary to stop them being attacked.
Dishonesty offence.
Chief Inspector Mark Hayfie remembers when he was kicked in the face and needed stitches.
I was dealing with a domestic. It was down on the Esplanade between a couple. And as I was dealing with the female, the male came up and kicked me in the face. It stayed with me forever. These things do. It's down. You know, it's sort of like the experience that you get through policing.
And attacks still happen. Last year there were 28 in Guernsey and 37 in Jersey, less than previous years, partly because people haven't been going out as much during the pandemic. But these numbers could easily rise again.
We've seen a range of assaults over the last couple of years, ranging from being punched, officers have been punched around the body, punched in the face, officers have been spat at, they've been kicked, and some officers have been threatened with weapons as well.
Jersey's now training more officers to carry tasers. They cause considerable pain. No one here wants to use them, but they sometimes have no choice.
About 95% of the time, just drawing them out will calm down people opposite you. So they're really, really efficient, but they're also quite expensive, and it takes quite a bit of training to master them. Therefore, not that many officers will have them.
Being punched, kicked and spat at is not as common here as in the UK, but it still happens. And as this officer says, abuse should never be seen as part of the job. Emma Volney, ITV News.
A couple more of your day's stories now in brief, and 3 people have been sentenced to a total of 16 years in prison for grievous bodily harm and drug offences. That's in Guernsey. 2 of them drove a man in the boot of a car to Plymouth. They seriously assaulted him there. The 3rd person also later assaulted the victim, who was then left to make his way to a nearby house for help.
The UK minister who represents the Channel Islands has resigned from Boris Johnson's government. Lord David Wolfson left the government 24 hours after it was revealed that the Prime Minister, his Chancellor Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson's wife Carrie had been fined for breaking lockdown laws. Lord Wolfson has served as the Justice Minister since December 2020.
Now then, most countries, they have laws that some would describe as quaint, others outdated perhaps.
Yes, for example, it's still illegal to be drunk and in charge of cattle in England and Wales.
Who knew? However, in Jersey, one particular bit of governance that only applies at Easter is causing confusion and frustration for some events companies.
The reason being that the law in question bans dancing on Good Friday, resulting in one event due to take place at l'Auberge du Nord tomorrow having to be moved. Well, Caroline Lewis is outside the venue now. Caroline, tickets had already been sold for this event, hadn't they?
They had quite the mix-up, and as you can probably see behind me, there's quite a few people out tonight enjoying a drink in the sunshine. But it had been hoped that a big immersive dance event could have gone on tomorrow, and it had all been organised. DJs were being flown in from the UK, tickets were being sold, the stage was all but set. That was until they were reminded of a very old law in Jersey, which means dancing and other forms of entertainment like cinema and theatre are banned for the duration of Good Friday, which means if you go out tonight, you can dance until midnight, but then dance floors will clear for 24 hours. And while this is a religious law, it doesn't stop pubs and bars opening and people drinking into the early hours. Well, as I said, this is a very old law, but what do islanders make of it? I headed into St Helier earlier today to find out.
Well, it is, yeah, strange. You should be able to, like, go out and have fun.
I don't know, I feel a bit like, I suppose it's nice to have some traditions.
I can imagine it would be a problem for people younger than us.
Younger, yeah. So. Yeah, it seems a bit strange, but yeah, it doesn't really affect us.
People don't seem to care anymore, you know. I can't understand people wanting to go to a nightclub on Good Friday anyway.
Well, that's what islanders think, but what about those who are having to close their doors tomorrow? Well, let's remember, this law doesn't exist in the UK, France or Guernsey, and many told me they were frustrated that Jersey was lagging behind. In fact, this law hasn't been updated since 1974, so almost 50 years. Well, one told me he was frustrated that he could have 30 people in a room drinking until the early hours, but as long as they weren't dancing. While another told me he felt that this was an outdated and archaic law that needed to be changed as soon as possible. As for the event that was supposed to be going on here tomorrow, they've managed to shunt it forward to Sunday, and the guys who are running it said that while they weren't aware and they were shocked by the law, they do respect it, and they're just making the best of the situation that's before them.
Thank you, Caroline.
Right, some news about Jersey's fire and rescue service. They're donating 2 fire engines to Ukraine. 6 firefighters will drive them to Kent and then on to Poland on Monday, where they'll be given to crews responding to the Russian invasion. They're also donating a number of items, including protective clothing and also some medical supplies as well.
The trucks are coming to the end of their operational life in Jersey, however, they're still very usable. So to hand them over to a fire service that in Ukraine, they will be able to use them and make good use of them for many years to come.
You're watching ITV News on Channel Television this Thursday evening.
Yep, thanks as ever for joining us. Now, still to come on our programme tonight, we've got the fish tracking technology being used to ensure stocks for the future.
And bank holiday is just around the corner. We've seen a lot of sunshine across the islands through today. What does the bank holiday have in store? Full forecast details coming up with me in the next 15 minutes. See you then.
Coming up in just a few minutes, it's the ITV Evening News. With the headlines, here's Lucrezia Millarini.
Coming up, asylum seekers to be given one-way tickets to Rwanda. The Prime Minister announced some migrants will be sent 4,000 miles away, but Labour says it's all a distraction from the Partygate scandal and the plans simply won't work. Also, long queues at airports, railway stations and on the roads ahead of this weekend. We'll get the latest on the Great Easter Getaway. And Prince Charles takes the Queen's place at the Royal Maundy service as it's announced she'll miss another traditional event this Sunday. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Sport from us first, though. Fair to say we've got both ends of the spectrum tonight. We're going to tell you about a Jersey senior in a moment. But first, Otis, let's start with a Guernsey teenager who had a cracking debut last night.
Yes, Jonathan, there's been some very notable stars who've burst onto the scene at a very young age. Wayne Rooney made his debut at 16. More recently, Jude Bellingham played for England at 17. But last night at Foots Lane, Tim Apsian burst onto the scene for Guernsey FC.
It looks like she's taking an early bath.
DHS, proud sponsors of ITV Channel Sport.
Yes, remember the name. What a debut it was. Let me set the scene. Guernsey's 200th home league game. They're 3-2 down to the visitors, Chipstead, with 23 minutes left on the clock when Guernsey manager Tony Vance looks down to his substitutes and tells 16-year-old Tim Apsian to get warmed up. The rest, as they say, is history. Just take a look at this.
A few chances in the stand for Guernsey to get it up, but a patient route is definitely probably the best course of action at the moment. Fazakli, that's a great header. Look at the speed of Tim Apsian. Strike, scores! Tim Apsian has scored on his debut. What a moment for the 16-year-old. He used that unbelievable pace of his and he drives it into the bottom corner.
Imagine that as a debut, and what a commentary by Harry Jones, another Guernsey youngster with a great future ahead of him. Well, staying with the football, and there's a title decider in the JFA Combination League. This Saturday, Elliot Powell's St Peter take on Gary Tumulty's St Clement. St Peter have the home advantage and need a win to secure the title, whereas a draw would be enough for St Clement to win the league for the first time in the club's history.
We've managed against each other for a couple of years now. He's probably won more than he's lost against me, but at the same point we've won one each this year. He won the league game 3-0, we won the cup game 2-0 with 10 men. So yeah, obviously come 2 o'clock on Saturday the relationship will be frosty, I suspect.
I think 90 minutes of football always sort of changes in between the first and the 90th. I said, but by the end of it, I think we'll probably enjoy a beer with each other and congratulate whoever turns out to be the winner of the day.
Final bit of football now, and Jersey Bulls managed to turn around their recent poor form with a 4-0 win over Frimley Green earlier this week, and they'll be looking to build on that win going into Saturday. They welcome Redhill to Springfield, who currently sit 2 spots below the Bulls in 6th and come into the game on the wrong side of a 4-0 scoreline. Now, more than 2,500 people are expected at Lalonde on Monday as Jersey's race club opens for the new season, and the organisers are excited to welcome back racegoers with open arms.
A lot's changed this season. We've done a lot of work on the course, on the railings, everywhere on site. We have a much bigger members' tent. We've got an extra fine dining tent. And we've made a lot of changes, some of which we've learnt actually from having COVID for the last 2 years.
Finally from me, getting an international call-up is arguably the greatest achievement of someone's sporting career. And it turns out, after speaking to Jersey's hockey's most famous octogenarian, Tim Pollard, the feeling you get when you receive that call doesn't diminish as you work your way through the age groups. I went along to meet him before he plays for England over 80s in their first international match. When Tim rolls up to Jersey hockey, he comes equipped with not only pads and sticks, but somewhat of a legendary status. Nice of you to join us, Tim.
Well, it took a bit of time finding the clothes, but thank you.
Fair point. Perfect preparation is probably one of the main factors behind his longevity in the sport. Can you remember your first game, Tim?
I can. Most people probably would have put them off for life. As I say, the gear that we had in those days was bordering on the arc.
He's been playing for almost 70 years now.
The school I went to when I was 13 was one of the top hockey schools, and when they asked if anybody had ever played, I said yes. What position? I made the mistake of saying goalkeeper.
He may describe it as a mistake, but it's a move that's seen him travel the globe and represent both England and Scotland across various age groups. What's your favourite part about hockey?
Letting no goals in.
He recently got the call up to play for England over 80s. Their first game takes place at the end of the month against Holland.
I love playing for England, and as I say, through the age groups it's been great. You've got a good bunch of friends. The desire to win never changes. I will go on till I finally decide that I'm a liability and the kit goes somewhere else.
Do you think I'd ever stand a chance?
Oh yes. I mean, your stick works very good.
I'll pay you later on. So who knows? Maybe when he eventually hangs up the pads and gloves, the kit might come my way.
Fantastic from Tim, a great achievement as well. Yeah, great stick control. He said it there himself. I imagine the goals were flying in, weren't they?
Not quite, I'll be honest. The only goal that went in was when I tactically positioned the cameraman in the way so he couldn't get to it.
Did you? That's the way it goes, isn't it? Brilliant. All right, Otis, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, last night we were talking about monitoring bats, weren't we?
We were, but tonight it's counting fish. The islands are getting involved in a cross-channel initiative to track marine life around our coastlines.
Well, the idea being that it'll help experts understand more about what lies beneath and help to manage stocks in the future. Roisin Gawson has the story on this.
A small boat that's going to help to paint a much bigger picture of what's going on in our waters.
This is an acoustic receiver, and we've got 5 of them going out around the bailiwick of Guernsey. We've got them 2 in Alderney, 2 in Guernsey and 1 off Sark here, and we're going to have them listening out for the pings of tagged fish and shellfish.
The islands are getting involved in the Fish Intel project, a multi-million-pound initiative involving researchers across the UK and parts of Europe. Through a combination of fish tracking and underwater surveys, the project will give a fuller picture of fish movements and the habitats that species including bass, pollock and crayfish prefer.
And that in turn will help fisheries managers to inform and decide on where and how best to manage fisheries appropriately for the best stock management and making sure there is healthy populations of all the key species around.
Every 4 months, the data gathered by these receivers will be downloaded and analysed.
We were a real black spot that wasn't sort of visible on that acoustic tracking map. So when the islands came together and found the funding to set up this project and get the monitors in, we're really filling a gap of that sort of migration journey that otherwise would be here be dragons, unknown data.
The aim is to protect and enhance the marine environment while making sure it remains commercially sustainable. Roisin Gawson, ITV News.
It has been the most spectacular day today, hasn't it?
It's been gorgeous,
absolutely
stunning.
Glorious. Look at that man there with his spotty tie, very
warm.
warm.
Well, I like to say that I've brought the sunshine, but I don't think that's necessary because there has been some cloudy times through much of this week as well.
Yeah.
But today...
That's the number we wanted to see.
It's the highest temperature of the year so far for the Channel Islands.
Wow.
Look at that, 21 degrees Celsius earlier on today.
Yeah.
And it's felt quite warm and quite pleasant in that sunshine too.
Did
so
your
a
knees
lovely
come
day.
out?
My knees didn't come out. Hopefully next week I will be getting my legs out for you.
That doesn't
So we'll
surprise me
see.
at all, actually. Now, yesterday it was Weather Word Wednesday, but today, Alex's first programme, we're going to have Fog Thursday, aren't we?
Fog on Thursday.
Lovely,
yes,
you're going to enjoy this.
Yeah.
You didn't know about this, did you?
God, this is not well rehearsed. That was not good, Wolsey. So I want to show this lovely photo that's been sent in actually from Guernsey. This was first thing this morning. We had a little bit of a few fog banks just to the lapping on shore. Now look at this. You can just about pick out, hopefully you two can see this as well, just about pick out this little bow here. Now this is known as a fog bow.
Alex,
okay.
you had the chance to guess it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, I didn't even let you have a guess. No, it's known as a fog bow. Now the difference between this and a rainbow is, of course, it forms in fog, but you'll notice that there's no colour here. And that's because in fog, the water droplets are much, much smaller. And because they're smaller, what happens is the colours aren't able to get dispersed as much. So it means that we get these very white bows, and often they're referred to as a white rainbow as such.
Brilliant.
So it could be a little bit more of these through the weekend. So if you do see them, don't forget to send them in, tweet them to us, and hopefully I'll show them next week. But the good news is that as we go towards the bank holiday weekend, there will be some further warm spells of sunshine. Here you go.
What's the weather going to do? Whatever the weather throws at you, you're prepared. Conservatory Insulations sponsors the ITV Channel Islands weather.
So across the islands through today, there has been some welcome sunshine. A little bit of stratocumulus picked up in Jersey earlier on this morning. A gorgeous photo sent in from Simon here, as you can see. But through this afternoon, we've seen temperatures 21 degrees Celsius in Maison St Louis. And well, for the bank holiday Easter weekend, a little bit of mist and fog through the morning. That will burn off into the afternoon to reveal more sunny spells for all of us. And when we do see any sunshine, it will feel quite warm and pleasant in that sunshine as well. We've got high pressure sat over us at the moment. That's keeping our weather fairly quiet, fairly slack flow. The large white lines or the big spaces between them, that suggests we'll see some very light winds over the coming few days. This weather front here, though, just starting to introduce a little bit more moisture across the islands as we work our way through this evening and overnight. Lowering cloud bases, the cloud thick enough at times to push its way in. We'll also see some mist and fog, but there's still a lot of uncertainty of how much mist and fog we'll see through tomorrow morning. In fact, I had some big discussions with Jersey Met earlier on today, discussing how much of this is going to roll in as we kick off into tomorrow. But I think for many of us, if we do see the mist and fog through the morning, it will linger through Alderney and Guernsey. It will eventually brighten up quicker through Jersey. But again, depending how thick it is, it may just brighten up for all of us into the afternoon. But where we do see the sunshine, just like today, once again, we could be seeing temperatures 14, if not 16 degrees Celsius, 16 there, 61 in Fahrenheit. Now, here, times of high water. We're looking at most of the islands seeing to high water tomorrow morning between 6:30 and 10 minutes past 7. And once again at 10 to 7 in the evening and around 7:30 in the evening too. As we leave Good Friday and go into Saturday, well, once again, we do it all over. We start with the mist and fog overnight. That will burn off as we go through the morning. A slow clearance, I think, more so on Saturday, but again, brightening up into the afternoon. And where we do see the sunshine, feeling quite warm and quite pleasant in that sunshine for all of us as well. More sunshine on Sunday, the odd light shower on Monday. And don't forget, UV levels are moderate. Take care.
Conservatory Insulations sponsors the ITV Channel Islands weather.
Well, that's it from us for tonight.
Yeah, almost, but take a look at lovely Willow there.
I know, it's her first time on the island. She's only 5 months old.
Oh, absolutely gorgeous, isn't she? That is it from us, though. We're going to leave you now with a look back at the week's highlights. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.